Good evening, gentlemen. I hope this is not the least of the session, being the last. Uh, I'm getting my anxiety pangs by looking at all the stalwarts from the cinema industry, from the entertainment industry, and then, our development partners who, in their own way, have been defining the skyline of this country, bringing in the best of entertainment and as well as the best of developments across this country. Uh, a billion-dollar question which Anish basically asked: why should cinemas or entertainment spaces be given to become a part of these shopping centers when they are unable to justify the revenues being sought by the mall developers? Why should the mall developers instead not have another format of retail or another format of food and beverage? Why should they stick their neck out to get the entertainment formats or so-called the cinemas, which are going empty these days, which do not really have that content, which can justify the revenues needed by the mall developers? So let me begin with probably Shibu, who happens to be at the pinnacle of decision-making process at Lulu, selecting retailers to do business at their malls. Shibu, a very small question. Do you see cinemas or entertainment spaces justifying their existence at your malls? And if so, why?
Hi, good evening. Definitely, I see them needed, especially for South. And there's no questions because of the fact that the content is a king there. And still, at Kochi today, 52% is average occupancy. And I see that growing up as you go into Tamil Nadu or Hyderabad. So the second fact is that malls are always a family destination. And I believe that for a family, cinema is very important. And when I talked about North, there is a content, scarcity of content there. But I believe that it is probably the best minds will apply and come back. It will come back. But then the fact is, should we do large number of screens or should we limit the number of screens? It's a question which can be looked up. But then obviously whatever we have created, we will. But the concept of a cinema in a large destination mall should always be there because we're creating a destination. And then cinema is a story which always we love to see. We love to be in a different zone for 2 hours. So if we are creating a mall, we feel that cinema, entertainment zone, and a large food court and 15 restaurants are must for that because it's a family which we get into the mall, and that's going to be then only a destination is created.
So Shibu, while we leave this discussion even to the people on the other side of the dais, they could come up and ask the questions midway so that the whole discussion becomes more interesting. Just a small question around the fact that most of the mall developers end up defining what the entertainment spaces or the cinemas should do, and more like a Taj Mahal wherein they end up taking a lot of space, doing their foyers or doing a lot of incidental things in and around their entertainment spaces, resulting into a very low trading density across. So do you basically end up influencing these people, or do you believe a mall operator should influence or should not influence around taking such spaces to become Taj Mahals?
See, for a mall, it's very crucial to get the time of the family. And when we see that when a family comes and spends more time in a mall, then it induces them to do shopping, to dine out. And that's a very important part. If you only have a mall which has retail, and you know that retail the stores in the mall are actually pushing customers to go offline. When that's part, 60-70% of your trading densities area is having an omni-channel business where people are pushed to go off online. Then you need to have some infrastructure which will retain them. And we see that food court, restaurants, and fun entertainment zones and cinema is the answer for that because they make people sit there for a long time. Coffee shops, and cuisines which are curated they make people spend long times. Invariably, they like the destination, and invariably they keep coming back to the mall, and then obviously the mall gets the time to curate hits, entire retail landscape or the fashion landscape to their taste.
And that's what is the mall will be all about.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. So, I am a developer, but we all decided to ask some tough questions to the cinema operators from the developers' side, and I've been given that not so easy task. So, I'll shoot with Amit first. Amit, pre-COVID, we saw cinemas getting signed at vanilla store numbers. And screens were being talked about megaplexes, 12 screen bana do, 14 screen bana do. I even heard yesterday somebody telling me that in Gurgaon, there was a cinema that was signed at 21 screens with a mall which had 11 screens right opposite the road. Now, suddenly, we are talking about cinemas where, in North specifically, because as Shibu said, South doesn't have that problem of the content, number of movies, attendance is all good. अचानक 2 साल में ऐसा क्या हो गया कि 11 स्क्रीन वाला और 21 स्क्रीन वाला सिनेमा जो है अब 4 स्क्रीन, 5 स्क्रीन और 6 स्क्रीन की बातें करने लग गया है. सिर्फ 2 साल में इतना फ़र्क क्यों पड़ गया?
So, I want to first give a disclaimer कि मेरी सबसे बड़ी जो मल्टीप्लेक्स स्क्रीन है वो 7 स्क्रीन है. So we need to understand one particular thing. मेरे ख्याल से pre-pandemic, as you rightly said, that cinemas were giving a wellness store का rentals. So developer was also very happy, like giving out the, technically the 3rd floor, 4th floor, corner space at that rental. तो वो भी ये चाहते थे कि यार बड़े से बड़ा space दे दो. Realistically, if you'll ask me, the disconnect is whether developer was giving that space or whether the cinema was asking that space. This is a basic question to be asked. Cinema is a microeconomics. It's a micro market game. आपके 3 से 5 किलोमीटर के रेडियस को आपको देखना है. अब उस 3 से 5 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में when you want to see the microeconomics, you have to basically, this is a decision, this should come from the exhibitor, that how many number of screens I want. Specifically, when it comes to north side of the country, we are talking about Gurgaon, Noida, NCR. Realistically, it's Hindi cinema and English. These are the 2 languages which works there. What you will do with the 10 screen, 12 screen, 14 screen? वो आप 10-10 मिनट में वो सेम पठान की शो को 10-10 मिनट के बाद में चलाओगे. There is no other option. We need to understand one particular thing, that while designing the cinema, the mall developer should always reach out to the right people in exhibition space, and they should take their guidance exactly what will run in their particular place.
So are you saying that the mall developer wanted to build 21 screens, तो उसने बोला यही है, sign करो?
सर आपको वेनिला का रेंटल मिल रहा था ना?
No, I'm saying from design perspective. From design perspective, the developer said कि 21 screen ही मिलेगा आपको, और आपने sign किया.
I am saying the mistake was both sides. But I would still prefer and to say that it is a more mistake from the developer side. अगर आप जाके ये नहीं पूछ रहे हो कि यार यहाँ पर चलेगा क्या?
I think Abhishek, I think what they are saying, we are signing a 9-year lease. You are building an asset for 50 years. You should be more cautious. We will be cyclic and seasonal. When the movies are doing good, we want more space. When movies are not doing good, we don't want space.
So that's an interesting point. Picking up from there, are you also saying that in the north or in Delhi or in Punjab, we are going back to the first generation of multiplex के 4 screen बहुत हैं?
So I'll tell you specifically post-pandemic. See, we need to understand one particular thing. It is not for developer, it is not for the exhibitor. We are building a cinema for consumer. And the consumer behavior is something which we need to look at the micro market. And that's an important aspect, that looking at post-pandemic now, let me put across post-pandemic, there are 2 things which has come up very, very clearly, that consumer wants to go and watch a larger than life content in cinema, or otherwise luxury or premium format as a format. So I would always advise from my side to every developer wherever we are doing the cinema, that we need to have a large screen format and we need to have a couple of recliner formats, so that you're giving the both side of the world with the best of the F&B in offering and hospitality. Having said that, I still believe that anything more than 5 screen in northern part of the country, where you have Hindi and English as a predominant language, it's a complete no-no, at least from my end. And that's the reason I've given a disclaimer that we do not operate any cinema across the country which is more than 7 screen.
Okay, so developers will have to really think hard when they have made structures for 10-screen cinemas because it's impossible to use them now.
Absolutely, because once a cinema is always a cinema. You cannot go and change it.
Tushar would like to add something.
I think excesses have been made. Hi. I think excesses have been made both sides. I remember when I was working for PVR, we opened 7-screen cinema in Gurgaon in 2004 in MGF. It is the second highest trading cinema till date. So you build the cinema for the catchment, you build the product for it, you price it right, you program it right, and you build it like that. It can't be just like that.
Whose call is it? Number of screens किसकी call होनी चाहिए? Developer की या exhibitor की? For the micro market, for the development, as an exhibitor, whose call should it be कि कितने screen इस mall में होने चाहिए?
अभिषेक देखिए, again I'll take previous examples. Select City Walk जब बन रहा था, जब उसकी bid हो रही थी, उससे पहले ही we were discussing कि कितने screens हम लेंगे as PVR. Okay? और अगर आप कोई नई mall कहीं पे कर रहे होंगे, you would be talking to your partners today. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is the new developer or the first time developer or a seasoned developer would go to 5-10 different sets of people and say मैं ये बनाऊंगा, नहीं तो मेरी मूंछ इतनी बड़ी है मैं ऐसे बनाऊंगा. हर तरीके से बनता है. The idea is, and the point what has happened in last 3-4 years is everybody has been the vanity has been taken away कि बॉस आ जाओ काम करो. High quality businesses who have profitability in hand will build it right and will create it for forever. It doesn't have to be 9 years. It will be for forever. Catchment change होगी वो कोई बात ही नहीं है.
The building of course will be forever. The exhibitor can change in 9 years, 12 years or 15 years, but the building of course is forever. So that was on the number of screens. Coming
Abhishek,
to you.
Abhishek, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Because I'm on the side of the entertainment guys, right? Because that's the side that I'm on. So it looks like they're getting a little outnumbered. So I'm going to get 2 more people on their side coming on.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, Rajesh Sharma, founder of PSR Cinemas, and Tarun Rangwani, business head at Landmark Group, are able to join us. So, gentlemen, could I get you on the stage? However, feel free to give them both hell.
Bring it on. I don't think.
They'll join us. So just carry on.
So,
I want to understand what has changed. Like 3 years back, we were thrown data, number of screens in India versus number of screens in US. US selling tickets at $12. We are selling less than $3 per capita screens. We produce more movies. What happened?
Yeah, let me take that, Rajneesh.
Yeah, because we were told you are missing a ma, you should have cinema. So some dialogues are still resonating and memories coming back.
5,000 screens per city.
Let me take that, Abhishek.
Yeah, Devang, let's.
So, I mean, the first perspective of whether how many screens should be built, it should definitely be an exhibitor's protocol, and they should do their due diligence to see what kind of footfalls can they drive. I guess what has changed is, of course, not only the behavior of the people, but I guess the number one reason which we can put on table is at what rate we were signing those deals. We briefly touched upon. By the way, I beg to differ on both the point of view of Amit and Tushar. We are still looking at megaplexes. When we entered India, and let me put the global perspective, in Maharashtra, yes, there was no regional content. If in Gurgaon 7 screens were higher, in Pune we built 15 screens, which is still successful. And globally speaking, I guess the point which is very clear is bigger is better. You give more content choice, you give more content are coming. In 2019, we released about 1,050 titles in our cinemas. In 2022, even with 8 rented week, we still release about 1,089 titles, which means content flow is there. Of course, there is a temporary suspension So my first phase of answer is that we'll have to look at the overall mix. It's not about whether operator will change, will still benefit. It's not a short-term phenomena. It's if it is lock-in is over and then the new operator is coming, will we be able to efficiently operate it or not? We don't know. But we believe that for sure, whenever you build megaplexes, it's proven and again, it's more successful than you have a around-the-corner cinemas. It may not be happening immediately because the kind of suffering that we went through during the COVID, not only that, but also the cash flow got dented because of the performance of 2022 after the first quarter we saw as an exception. The only thing which has changed, answering Rajneesh, is that occupancy costs for cinema operator in India is highest in the world, at least in 19 territories that we are operating. If we are seeing that if the occupancy cost in any other territory, including US in the New York street, is in like single digit as rent to revenue ratio, cinema cannot survive with offering 30% of rent to revenue ratio as an MG. And you know, when the bad time comes, you know, you
So you're
get
saying the
screwed.
rent corrections should happen and you are not writing off megaplexes.
We are not writing off megaplexes. We are saying we are still willing to invest. We are saying in a quality mall development, we'll partner with you. We'll take a joint risk. It is not the risk of the mall owner alone. But what we definitely need is you cover the downside because business is still not predictable after COVID. And we, in the bid of becoming bigger, and we ourselves to blame for. I mean, if as an operator, if we come and say, I'll pay you 100, and they will say, I'll pay you 200, of course you will choose the one with the best offer, right? So, but the issue is about, we never looked at the downside, only thinking about we are largely under screen. So let's just keep on opening.
I think this question, Devang, is stemming basically from कि content नहीं आ रहा तो screen ज़्यादा क्यों होने चाहिए या admits कम हो रहे हैं क्योंकि content नहीं आ रहा. So, extending that question a bit, as exhibitors, do you think there will be a time when the exhibitors decide to start production? कि बॉस मेरे तो स्क्रीन बने हुए हैं, आज 2500 स्क्रीन बने हुए हैं और सॉफ्टवेयर है नहीं, लेट्स 4 of us गेट टुगेदर और एक लाइनअप ऑफ मूवीज़ बना देते हैं, 20 मूवी साल की हम बनाने वाले हैं. दैट्स वन. एंड सेकेंड पार्ट इज, इफ नॉट दैट, डू यू सी इन फ्यूचर as exhibitors, you go to a production house and say कि बॉस आपका ये मूवी बन गया, आप नेटफ्लिक्स को मत दो इतने में, 20 करोड़ में, मेरे को दे दो 20 करोड़ में, हम 3 लोग खरीद लेते हैं. Do you think that those two scenarios do you foresee in the future?
I think there has to be a complete clarity of thought. I mean, what you're saying here, in tomorrow's, if I go in a FEC forum where they say there is no mall development, so as an exhibitor, will you start developing mall on your own? It's kind of the same thing, right?
Well, you did.
Yeah.
You did when जब single screens को multiplex बनाना शुरू किया था, dearth of cinemas थे, आप लोगों ने बनाया.
It's handful, not even 1%. I'm just trying to say is that if you are, we strongly believe, my personal point of view is let experts do their job. We don't understand production. We don't understand mall development. I guess the mall developer in India has done a fantastic job in at least bringing the retail up. Of course, there is a correction which is needed, which will correct. Same way, we are talking parallelly to the production houses on seeing, you know, where are they seeing? Look, the production houses which are giving their content to OTT is basically to improve their cash flow. It's a table profit. The stars can't be made on a smaller screen. I mean, and they've realized that during COVID. In fact, last week in cinema conference, which happens every year, there was an oath ceremony where, you know, all the big 6 studios, including Apple TV and Amazon, mentioned we are only coming to cinemas. In fact, even if the productions are done, it will come to cinema first, will respect the exclusivity. Cinema going to OTT, I guess, is a very temporary phenomena.
So the
it's not
content lull is very, very temporary, you're saying.
Content, it's a behavior change in 22. I again emphasize more that there was no content dearth. It's just the preference and the behavior of people has changed, which will take time to correct.
So, you know, as Devang just suggested that there's no dearth of content, the industry is going to make a comeback and maybe a stronger one. And, you know, the commitment from the cinema operators to invest into multiplex infrastructure remains as high as it was ever before. My question to Rajneesh is, we just spoke about the fact of, you know, changing operators, or they may end up changing from changing their mind and basically leave the malls, and then another operator comes in. Let me ask you a basic question. You know, many of us find that across the mall operators, which we call in our language as strata sales. You know, I just want to touch upon that, and I would like to have an opinion from you, then followed by Devang on that. You know, forget about the fact that you're selling an asset, which is a complete mall. You end up selling cinemas by the seats, by parts in multiples thereof, as we call it. And you expect a cinema operator to stay in such a place, a mall which has been sold to hundreds of people, and in that mall the cinema itself has been sold to tens of people, and you expect that guy to remain out there in such a mall wherein the mall does not has even a MyBap. Mall doesn't even get managed. Forget about the common area maintenance being charged. There is actually common area disservice being given to multiplex operators and the consumers alike. Would you expect any retailer, including a cinema, to stay put in that mall for more than a year?
I think Pramod, the question might be valid, the pain might be extremely valid, but there is something called due diligence, right? As a landlord, when I am giving you cinema and not giving to somebody else, I am doing my due diligence that I am better off earning 10 rupee less from PVR, but to give it to some XYZ who I don't know will survive 10 months or 12 months. You as an operator and as a retailer have to do your due diligence. This guy making a mall, 5 lakh square feet, needs 500 crore in construction. Does he have a balance sheet of 25 crore? If you don't do your due diligence and then you come back and blame the developer, he's happy. He made something, he sold something, you rented it. Why are you blaming developer? Poor guy is doing work.
What you're effectively suggesting is it's a process of due diligence wherein strata sales malls should not be chosen by retailers. They should choose not to being stuck in such malls and making an investment, their hard-earned capital being invested into cinemas or any other format of retail in such malls.
I'm saying, for God's sake, for once in your life, be responsible for decisions you make.
So you're saying,
for once in your life, be responsible for decisions you make.
So what you're saying is that the guys are making a wrong decision by sticking around their neck in malls which have been strata sold. So let's hold on to that. Let's hear Devang on that, so that we got your viewpoint. What you're suggesting is the people who are taking the decision at the retailers or at the entertainment providers end are taking a wrong decision by being present in a strata sales mall where they know that the life of that mall may not be there in future because it does not has a MyBap. Let's hear Devang on that.
No, Pramod, I just want to clarify that. You may choose to be with them, right? But you must know your flip side of it. Right? So I am not saying you should not sign any startup.
They can become millionaires provided they're billionaires.
They are doing a great service to retail industry by creating infrastructure.
Okay, so I think we'll switch to the next one because we only have 20 minutes left.
I'm sorry.
Shalini, I have a particular question for you on this one. Yeah.
Okay, but I was going to talk on behalf of the mall,
on behalf of the
entertainment.
Entertainment only. So you heard the problem right now. Developers have built 10 screens, 12, 13. और अभी अमित ने बोला है बॉस 6-7 से ऊपर चाहिए नहीं, अभी मार्केट ही नहीं है, ठीक है, या 8 स्क्रीन, ठीक है, इन दी हिंदी टेरिटरी में ही बना है. So as an FEC operator, I want to ask you, अभी मेरे पास वो 12 मीटर वाला डब्बा है, can FEC operators do something with that? Can you give us some alternative uses with that?
So hold on. Entertainment in India was limited when we penetrated the market to movie theaters. Because pehle se wo hum jate the and we would watch a movie. It was a family thing to do, right? Limited. And Sundays we'd go to families and dada, nana, whatever, and I'd go for brunches. All of a sudden we see this new segment of entertainment which you guys need to now take a call. Like, there was a time when you would lay out and say, हमने INOX sign कर दिया, हमने PVR sign कर दिया, and you had all these other people signing up because they were pulling in footfall. At the end of the day, it boils down to the footfall and who's generating the footfall. The ROI, the revenue, yes, it's very, very important, but just the way the parking lot's important, the toddler area is important, the movie theater, if at this point of time,
100%,
circumstantially is not drawing in the traffic, yes, FEC operators like me and the Hangout and the Neon, we are drawing in like 1,000 rupees square foot revenue. And if they're not, it's time for a change in entertainment. And believe me, it evolves. There's going to be more. There's a lot out there. There's mini golf, there's rock climbing. I know that some of his amazing malls are doing some great work, and that's pulling in traffic. So
you haven't told us what we can do with our 12-meter box.
maybe you should look at other formats of entertainment.
Exactly.
That's what you need to
This
do.
can be done.
Yeah. So my next question to Tushar, please. Yeah. So
भाई जगह तो भर लोगे, किराया कहाँ से लाओगे?
हेलो
वनीला वाला किराया नहीं लाएंगे. So Tushar,
So बिना वेनिला के तो सिनेमा आज भी रेडी है सर.
on content, like we've been discussing content का issue है, content ये, and we see a lot of that content, चाहे वो series के माध्यम से हो या फिर movies के रूप में हो, it's going to OTT, and it is going to OTT because the people today, we believe, are looking at more cutting edge kind of content कि बस OTT पे ये allowed है और cinema पे allowed नहीं है. ये जो gap है censorship का between the OTT and cinema, ये कहाँ से मेकअप होगा? Will the OTT, you think, in the future be more towards censorship? या cinema and movies will be allowed to play without censorship? How do you think this gap will be bridged?
Hi. So I think what the censorship differentiation has created is that anything which is taboo or anything which is intimate in nature or long form is not connected to the censorship, but that is where the OTT consumption is high. But if I take a step back, क्या आप आधी कच्ची बेकार बनी हुई दाल खाएंगे? नहीं खाएंगे. क्या आप एक अच्छी किताब पढ़ेंगे? पढ़ेंगे. क्या आप एक अच्छी फिल्म देखेंगे या एक अच्छी OTT देखेंगे? देखेंगे. So I think there is a problem inherently in terms of dated and lagged content, specifically so because we are from North India, primarily showcasing Bollywood films, dependent on that, plus Hollywood not producing in last 12 to 18 months the quality and the quantum of content that was required on the exhibition space for us to feel and have this dialogue. But if you look at it as anything which is art and commerce together, it has to work on an individual level. Now, what you talked about on the censorship bit, I think there is a difference. But as Indians, जहाँ पे ideals are Ram, I'm not saying as a Hindu dharma or anything, कि जो perfect man है और कोई भी हीरो कहीं भी किसी भी लैंग्वेज में देख लीजिए, वो सिर्फ एक लड़की को देखता है, उसी के लिए आशिक होता है, बाकी सारी बहनें होती हैं, वो सब सच्चाई है. वो देखते हैं इंडिया में जाके सिनेमा में. So that difference will remain to be. I think it's not a conversation कि यार OTT ने कुछ खाया है. लाइब्रेरीज जब आई थी तब लोगों ने कहा था बुक सेल्स बंद हो जाएंगी, वो कभी हुई नहीं है. आई थिंक देयर इज अ डिफरेंस. एक चीज़, सिंस वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट लॉट ऑफ स्टफ हियर, आई थिंक जो आप मेगा मॉल्स की बात कर रहे हैं और बड़े कॉम्प्लेक्सेस की बात कर रहे हैं, ये 15-20 सिटीज़ की बात है. मेरे से किसी ने प्रश्न पूछा था कि भैया बताइए कि आप अगले सिनेमा कहाँ खोलेंगे. मैंने उनको 30 डिस्ट्रिक्ट हेडक्वार्टर्स दिए थे यूपी के, जो गुड़गांव के बराबर हैं, और उसमें एक भी ब्रांडेड सिनेमा नहीं है. ठीक है,
बट वहाँ एक भी ब्रांडेड डेवलपर नहीं है, और वो डेवलपर जो वहाँ का होगा वो बेच देगा सीट की सीट.
उससे फर्क क्या पड़ता है? कौन सा सिनेमा,
तो
कौन सा सिनेमा ऑपरेटर यहाँ बैठा है जिसने, कौन सा सिनेमा ऑपरेटर यहाँ बैठा है, कौन सा सिनेमा ऑपरेटर बैठा है यहाँ पे जिसने कोई लीज नहीं की है, जो स्ट्रेटा सेल नहीं था? एक भी बता दीजिए.
नहीं, आई डिडंट गेट इट.
आई एम सेइंग ये तो डेवलपमेंट है हर सिनेमा लोकेशन में. सिनेपोलिस ने भटिंडा में खोला हुआ है, एक इकलौता सिनेमा है. 13 से मेरे ख्याल से 10 से 11 करोड़ बिजनेस करता है.
Yes, exactly. The challenge I'm saying is you want to go to those smaller cities, but you will not find the developers who are not doing starter sold there,
Which is
at
fine,
least in the
sir.
next 5 years. If that is okay, then the starter sold model is also okay.
वो देखिए हर आदमी अलग अलग तरीके से प्ले करेगा. वो एवोल्यूशन है, वो बदलेगा. वो एक ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर की अलग बात होगी, अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर की अलग बात होगी.
My last question to Mr. I think you run Bounce.
Correct.
So, आपको ऐसा लगता है कि अगर हम आपको 10,000 फुट एरिया दे देंगे तो आप हर रोज़ के 2,000 बंदे हमारे मॉल में ले आओगे?
So see, your question is bang on. जब आप पूछ रहे थे, you have height, and coincidentally last month I was in NCR and I was shown a lot of properties which were planned for 10 screens, 12 screens, and now they are willing to give away the 4 screens, 5 screens, and the first thing which comes to them is bounce because we need at least 30, 35 feet height. So if you ask me, principally is it doable? Of course, it is doable because we need that height. But of course, there are the other mechanics which have to fit in. Like you mentioned, 2,000 footfalls a day is a big question mark. So we have...
Because when we build one Audi जो 250 सीट 300 सीट का होता है, हमें लगता है कि ये Audi pre-COVID at least 2,000 लोगों को ले आता था या 1,500 लोगों को ले आता था. So अब वो बॉक्स से क्या हम वो 1,500-2,000 एंटरटेनमेंट के थ्रू ला पाएंगे?
So my answer is any entertainment format उतना footfalls for that square footage कभी नहीं ला पाएगा. And I have worked with 2 large entertainment formats. So entertainment formats also have the smaller size ones. I've been with Kidzania, 75,000 square feet minimum. Bounce we require 40,000 square feet minimum. So we can do close to 3 lakh footfalls a year. But what happens with the mall is, of course, then the commercials, then the mechanics need to change. And today the malls are appreciative of innovative concepts where they are willing to give those kind of rates. But same time, I remember I've visited a mall in Mumbai who's asked us 800 rupees square feet, considering we need 40 feet height, which no economics can, happen for a bounce or any FEC. Yeah,
I'm
Shalini.
just going to add to this. In like, let's say a toddler area, okay, mothers, parents with children, you're giving them an experience, they will come and leave their child there. But the revenues that you're expecting in a bounce, there's only so much that you can charge per person. The per square revenue in gaming comes from gaming, and you've got bowling. There's only so much you can charge and so many people that you can turn around. So when you have a format like Bounce and you're taking up 35 square feet height, you will not be able to. But at the same time, Shah Rukh Khan has to start and Ranbir Kapoor have to start doing some work. So the movie theaters, are back on track. But this is all circumstantial. I feel every entertainment zone, every entertainment format will pull in certain amount of revenue. And respecting each one of them, I think that the developers need to make the call of whether they need the footfall or the revenue. That's my opinion.
So we got you, Shanli. So thanks so much for your comments. So, coming on to Adish and then followed by Abhishek, we wanted to have your comments. Both of you are doing some exciting work in your micro markets. You're doing something in New Gurgaon. You're doing something in Ludhiana. Have you basically been planning the entertainment spaces as a percentage of total area of your mall, or you have been planning it on the basis of what the operators are asking you to develop in those centers?
Hi, Pramod. I think I had met Pramod about 25 years ago in Connaught Place when it was Priya, right? So I've been a consumer and now being a developer. Seeing the industry being evolved as a retailer and now as a developer, I think somewhere or the other I feel, my personal belief, everybody has done some bit of overdo-ness in one form or the other. There was greed and there was demand both at the same time. I think in India, what's very important, we as human beings, we tend to overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And I'm sure all of you sitting here, if I meet you in 2028, you would have at least grown 50 to 100% from where you are right now. This I can tell you for sure. From my perspective, I am building up centers in Ludhiana. Of course, there's a lot of supply already there. But the parts of Ludhiana where I'm building center, there is no supply. So from my perspective, yes, I am very much conscious in terms of how much space allocation has to be given. So of course, we did hire an expert to give us the demand and what will be the emerging needs. At the same time, a lot of change from the consumer perspective in terms of entertainment, choice of entertainment has come in. So in both of our centers, if I have to see, almost 40% of the space is to entertainment, foodtainment, F&B and different forms of entertainment, which includes multiplex as well. So that's what I am working on, and I think content and a lot of things will come in. I think it's a big opportunity for all the actors and movie stars, and we need tens of more of Khans and Kapoors coming in. Probably this is also an opportunity as parallel, because every disruption in my life, what I've seen, leads to eruption of opportunity. And I think opportunity going forward is going to be far more superior and quality and mature, which for all of us is going to be great. That's what I feel.
So great. You know, what you're suggesting is, to a large extent, you have used a data-driven approach towards segregating areas towards entertainment, cinemas, or foodtainment for that sake. And that percentage has been decided by one of the consultants who must have used data behind it and then allocated those spaces. You know, a similar question to Abhishek, who is doing a new development in the newer part of Gurgaon, which is really upcoming, which has lots of residential coming around it, and probably is one of the malls which is going to come up the first in that new town, you know, so to suggest. So did you end up using any data points to segregate that this should be the entertainment quotient, this should be the foodtainment, this should be the retail side, or the retailers ended up asking you for those spaces and that's how it got defined?
So in our case, our is a established mall now in New Gurgaon area. We are 90% leased out. So in initial times, we were only able to do 3 screens. And then the booming of the cinema screens, signing at vanilla rates, period phase came in, and they came and told us that you should make 2 more screens because 3 screens are too less for operational profitability. And as soon as we delivered 5 screens, the COVID hit, and now they're saying to convert the 5 screens into 3 screens. So it's
Bounce as an option.
so, Sir, actually, bounce concept doesn't work with us, because when you plan a mall, you have to understand that the development costs money, and the Gurgaon rates are at least the central rates are close to New York rates, and the satellites are close to, something like in Istanbul. So the things are very expensive there to build. So we cannot create an entertainment which doesn't give us revenue. It's not possible, because when you are planning for footfall, you do a 30-70 mix of vanilla versus anchor on the lower floors. And then you give it a food court and you do a 100% entertainment floor, or maybe 2 floors. So you're not left with much to, take out your profitability. So eventually, we need the support of cinemas. How we decided was, of course, we had a normal format of doing a basic cinema. Then we asked it, so that's the story. But I think this is a match which is common to most malls. Only thing that happened was kind of a mutual greed, I think, that led to over-designing of space for cinemas. But I think this is a good wake-up. And of course, every industry has a peak and a trough. So I think we are in the correction mode. So we will... And the most encouraging news is from, the conference that you had, that the producers want to make content for cinemas. I think that is the core here. That is going to give us the, the kind of optimism that cinemas are going to be all right. It's all about the content. As soon as we have content, we'll be fine. So I think what you need to look at is a longer picture rather than doing a knee-jerk reaction with developers saying that aaj hame nahi chahiye, aaj hame ye kam chahiye, aaj hame investment chahiye. I think overall picture dekhenge to things will be good, because footfalls will resume. How retail has picked up footfall, the cinemas will do as well. And it's the same story with everything. Experience cannot be competing with something in the OTT platform sitting on a sofa. So
So,
Yeah.
yeah. One last question
Abhishek,
for Pramod. Just one. Yeah, for Pramod now. नहीं, I can't leave you ना ऐसे छोड़ के गए सबसे पूछ लिया और आपसे ना पूछ ना
11 स्क्रीन बनाए हैं.
So अभी सब प्रॉब्लम ये कह रहे हैं कि ऑक्यूपेंसी कम है, कंटेंट नहीं है. तो ऑक्यूपेंसी के लिए हम कुछ और नहीं कर सकते सिनेमा में. हम म्यूजिकल शोज नहीं कर सकते, हम कॉमेडी शोज नहीं कर सकते, हम इवेंट्स नहीं कर सकते. इज देयर नो अदर वे टू बिल्ड ऑक्यूपेंसी इन द सिनेमा?
See, it's a very relevant question. The avatar of cinemas has to change. Cinemas have come of age. They are still believing the very fact, being a cinema person, and I'm saying so, they are still believing the very fact what we used to do in the old days would still end up surviving by just showing the films off the screen and selling the, the soda and the popcorn. There has got to be more to the cinemas, wherein augmented reality, virtual reality, and some part of technology is going to play a role in youthification of cinemas. Cinemas representing a possibility to attract more youth into the cinemas. As Devang has mentioned in his this thing, content is not an issue. There is a lot of content being made. There is a lot of content being brought to the screens. Not just from Hollywood, not just from Bollywood, from Tollywood, and even, if I may call Pollywood, which is Punjab, even from Pollywood. So there is so much of content coming in. It's about making or youthifying these cinemas, which can attract the youth of this country back to the cinemas. It's bound to happen. Every process of evolution takes time. Evolutions do not happen overnight. You got to give some time to the cinemas to make that right comeback in terms of its evolved avatar, and you will again see success of cinemas. The only thing which I believe the cinema operators are suggesting is the morphogenesis of carpet bombing of cinemas may not work. That is what has happened in some parts of this country, wherein you are putting up cinemas left, right, and centers. The mall developers believed that probably the cinemas would bring in those needed footfalls for their malls to survive. That is not going to happen. That would not happen. You cannot have an oversupply of any format and expect it to do well. It could be from ice creams to anything else, water even. It will not do well. It will not survive. You need to look at formats in an avatar wherein they survive to thrive, not survive to dead. So that is what was happening for many of the cinema operators, because one operator after the other was coming in and cannibalizing each other.
So Pramod, I just want to add to that. I totally agree with you. Respecting a 3-kilometer vicinity, I remember when we were growing up, how many cinemas were there in, like, let's say South Delhi? There was Sangam, Upar. They were spaced out. They were not every mall. There's like 3 malls in a row and everyone has a movie cinema. So maybe it's time, a wake-up call, that respect the 3-kilometer vicinity of FECs and of movie theaters, and maybe we all won't bleed.
And all three of
we
them
don't
are
need to
PVR.
cannibalize. My opinion.
I think I just wanted to finish the programming bit.
I'll just-
Cinemas will be multi-purpose venues. It is for us as operators to reimagine the programming and how we would want to use it. It will obviously take the revenue pie up. It is not an easy bit. These guys are leading it, they're doing it, but it doesn't have to be only theatrical entertainment.
Alternate uses.
It can be learning options, it could be training and development, it could be doing conferences, etc., etc., etc. Yes, that would be there in case. What she's saying is there a sense of zoning? I think there are overdeveloped, geographies where there is no sense of zoning. And there is overdeveloped stuff that is there. That's fine.
Amit, you want to say?
I want to basically make one particular point. So as a exhibition company, we are also in the production side of the business. We are also in the content making. And I'll tell you, we had 3 films in pre-production stage. We have basically holded those films right now. Not that we are not making those films. We are changing the film because of looking at the consumer behavior now. So important point what we need to understand, that most of the films which got released in 20 to 23, whether it is from Hindi cinema, whether it is from the Hollywood side, those films are basically made pre-pandemic with a pre-pandemic taste of the consumer. certainly there is a shift in consumer behavior in terms of taste and palate, and accordingly you have to actually provide the new content. So the content makers are also doing this, their side of the work, which we are speaking about. One particular point which everyone spoke about, that there is no dearth of content, it is only about like, what connect with you. There is also one particular segment which is going to get very, very big from here, and that is international content, which is not Hollywood, which is Spanish film, which is Russian film. When you look at just Japanese film now, Demon Slayer, animation, so these are the kind of film which has started doing very, very well. And you have to give the due credit to OTT for that. Because it is because of the OTT, we as a consumer are also getting exposed towards the new storytelling style. So what we need to understand that as a developer and as exhibitor, of course, we have to work hand in hand, specifically not bombarding the number of screen in places which is really, really over-screened. And at the same time, as Tushar was also making a point, there are approximately 50 plus city only in, say, UP. There are 500 cities across country which does not have a cinema. So if you are talking about the cinema screen needs to go from, say, 8,500 in India or 3,500, which is multiplex screen, to, say, 12,000 over a period of time. It needs to go to those places. That's the point we need to understand.
Okay. So I think the time is up. Are there any questions for the exhibitors?
No, the bar is open. Let's go.
So Anish is suggesting time is up. Let's give 2 questions, one for the exhibitors and one for the developers.
Hi, so I'm Prerna, and it was a very, very enlightening conversation and very engaging as well. First, I have to say this. So I think, yes, I agree with what all of you said, especially Pramod and the Shalini, yes. So, like Pramod sir said, that we are in this phase of evolution, it's transition. Because, like Mayank and me, I don't remember last going for I'm talking about me and my husband, not going for a movie for a very long time, ever since this COVID has struck. So as a consumer, when I speak about it, you don't want to go for I mean, like watching a Pathan or a, kisi ka bhai, kisi ka jaan and all that. You don't want to go for that content. So when you're coming back home tired and you have this OTT, you have good content there. So that is what, you're very comfortable sitting down at home watching that. But of course, as he said, that there's a lot of content that's available, but it needs to be, there's value addition that's required in the cinemas. There's more that needs to be offered by the cinema, the people who are, what should I say, like the cinemas. There's more content.
What's the question?
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first is, so you haven't gone to a movie with your husband. Have you gone with anyone else?
Well, we have to talk about it separately.
Okay, and the second is there a question in that question?
That is a question in
Okay,
that
can
question.
we get to the question, please?
Okay,
because
please.
the bar really is open.
All right. Yeah, so I think that there's value addition that needs to happen. Like, I'll quickly get to the question. So, like, when my son's going to a school and Logic's Noida, because it offers that slide, so because of that, even the South Delhi clientele, I feel, goes there just for the movie, because there's that experience that is getting, those children are getting off, it's being offered there, and the children are, the schools are like sort of like booking that cinema for the birthday parties.
Okay, so we've covered your husband, we've covered your son. Anyone else in the family?
So what's your take on that? I mean, why not like tie up with like a Netflix? Why not like tie up with a Netflix or like an Amazon Prime or a Sony, and to have exclusive content there? And like what Tatas have done with come up with the South movies, South talkies, what they say. Like,
so we truly appreciate what you're saying, and definitely the cinema guys are working around it. But typically a cinema is a short form feature film content which comes on cinemas. The long form of content comes on OTT. That's what typical the definition is. Of course, in the times to come, it may change. Suggesting that cinemas would have something more to offer to the youth and probably to, the people coming to the cinemas, yes, that is exactly what is in play, and that's what people in the cinema industry globally are working towards.
And
I'm seeing a great business in importing a whole bunch of golf simulators and putting them up on all your screens up over there. Okay. Any more questions? I can take one more. Seriously? Seriously? Go to the damn bar. Why are you asking questions?
Thank you. So I think both sides of the coin is here, and this question is as a customer. Okay. The small tub of popcorn is available at a large cost. Are you planning to introduce extra small too?
It's available.
You know, the small tub is available at a large cost. The extra small would be available at an extra large cost.
It means it means extra small is there in the pipeline, right?
We can give it to you at an extra large cost.
So, as customer, my suggestion is please resolve, because I can't pay for the extra small, because that is also going too expensive.
Sir, we are looking at it. The moment the developers reduce the rental, we'll basically give it for us.
Listen, you are in a mood that I will die first or you will die first. Abhishek, I tell you, the day you pay $12 for the movie seat, you will get popcorn free. As long as you are paying less than $3 for a seat, you will have to pay for the popcorn, because that's discretionary. Remember that.
I completely agree, but
don't kill between us.
But my point is, please don't push me to time zone. As a customer, please don't push me to time zone, because a 2,000 rupees card gives me more entertainment than what I'm getting here.
There is no compulsion to go to time zone if you come to mall. It's your discretion. Stop bringing your kids, you will be saved.
Entertainment is different at a movie theater. It's like going to the opera, okay, or going to time zone is gaming, and going to a movie theater, totally different experience. So it really depends on you what kind of entertainment you're looking for.
You know,
and you're here, there's free popcorn here, but then, you know, there's a price you're paying to be here.
Let's hit the bar. We're talking about opera Winfrey or the opera. You decide. You can go to the opera, or you can go to an opera Winfrey show.
Let me do a quick poll with the audience. Who wants to go to time zone at this cost, or who wants to go to the theater at this cost? I am for time zone. Am I the only one?
You are probably singled out, my dear friend.
The bar is open.
The bar is open. Thank you very much.